exciting, enriching, enlightening Gita Mastery course, trimester 5, session 1. So we are very, very enthusiastic in presenting this series of sessions to all of you, and I hope you all share the equal enthusiasm. Before we proceed, let us all chant the Mangalacharan together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashate Deshatarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamam Vande Shri Guru Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Are we on mute? Okay. So here we are beginning with chapter number 13 of Gita Mastery course. As we understand, Bhagavad Gita is broadly divided into 3 compartments or sections. So the first section are the first 6 chapter, which talks essentially about Karma Yoga. The middle 6 chapter focuses on Bhakti Yoga. And now where we are, the last 6 chapters, this talks about the Gyan Yoga. Now the question may arise that if the Bhakti Yoga is the culmination of Yoga ladder, it is the topmost, then why Gyan Yoga is presented after the section of Bhakti Yoga? So now we need to understand the connection between Bhakti section and Gyan section, because that will help us revealing the reason. So supplying the philosophical knowledge, which is the Gyan Yoga part of it, so supplying this knowledge will help us in understanding how to extricate oneself from the material entanglement. So the world where we are living in, the material world where we are bound with birth, death, disease and old age, how to get out of it, why to get out of it, why is it absolutely necessary. So the reasoning, the philosophy behind that is explained in these 6 chapters. Now the other thing is that Bhagavad Gita is basically focusing on Bhakti Yoga alone. The entire Bhagavad Gita talks about Bhakti Yoga. The first 6 chapter talks about how we can practice Bhakti through karma. And the last 6 chapters talk about how to practice Bhakti through Jnana. But ultimately we see that both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are touching Bhakti Yoga only.
Pure Bhakti Yoga.
Pure Bhakti Yoga, Ananya Bhakti. So what we have been discussing. So this is how we begin. So let us all happily enter into chapter number 13. So as this is the first chapter, there is no Gita rewind, but this is to rewind you or remind you that hopefully you have completed your quizzes for chapter number 10, 11 and 12, and you have also submitted your OBAs. So here we begin with the next chapter.
So this is chapter 13. It is entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. And this chapter has 35 verses. And chapter begins with very intelligent queries by Arjun. So this is again very important. A good disciple means good questions, sincere inquiries. The student is very eager to progress, to understand. If there is any doubt, he puts forth very intelligent questions, which means when he hears from his spiritual master, he thinks about it, he contemplates on it, he tries to understand, and if there is a doubt, then he asks that. So the whole section, the first section is intelligent questions. There are 6 questions where Arjuna asks right in the beginning. Krishna begins to answer that. That's the first section, 1 to 7. And finally, Arjun also asks about Jnana. So Krishna explains that in the second chapter, and we intend to complete the first 12 verses, the first 2 sections, intelligent questions and knowledge and how to gain it.
Arjuna vacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetragyam cha etad veditumicchami jnanam gyeyam cha keshava Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate etad yo vetti tam prahu kshetragya iti tad vidaha. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." So here in the first verse, we see that Arjun is expressing certain areas where he wants to acquire more knowledge. In totality, he is talking about 6 things. What are those 6 things? The first he says is Prakriti or material nature. The second is Purush or enjoyer. So Prakriti is considered to be female and Purusha is the male counterpart, and Prakriti is to be enjoyed by the enjoyer. So that is what he's asking, Prakriti, Purusha. Then he says Kshetra and Kshetragya. So Kshetra means the field, the area, the field of activity. So where a person performs certain activities. So that is Kshetra, and Kshetragya means the person who knows about the fields, the person who is in knowledge. So that is Kshetragya. And the last 2 things he asks is Jnanam or knowledge. So what is real knowledge? How to acquire real knowledge? And very important thing, Gyeyam, or who is the object of knowledge. By acquiring all this knowledge, what is to be known? So these are the 6 inquiries of Arjuna. We didn't read the second verse.
I know.
Sorry. And here are Krishna's responses. So if you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 are the points which Arjuna is asking, and Krishna answers these in different verses. So in verse number 13 to 26, he talks about Prakriti and Purush. In verse number 2 to 7, he talks about Kshetra and Kshetragya. And 8 to 12, he talks about Jnanam. And 13 to 19, he talks about Gyeyam. So there are different places where Krishna would be answering these questions. And he is not following the sequence in which Arjun is asking the question, because Krishna knows what Arjun needs to understand first and what second. So how to build upon that.
So the second verse where Krishna heard the questions of Arjun and Krishna begins to answer. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, this body, look at your body. I'm looking at my body. This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So we look at these 2 questions, the middle 2 questions. If you look in the first verse, Arjuna asks, I wish to know the field and the knower of the field. So immediately Krishna answers that question, and let's look at this in a little more detail. So let's look at this video. What is happening? We see a farmer who has a pair of healthy bulls. And he's tilling the land, he's plowing the land. So, Kshetra, field, and then we have the Kshetragya, or the knower of the field. So we have the field, we have the farmer, and this is a very simple and very amazing analogy to understand. If you catch hold of this farmer and you ask him, "Are you the field?" He said no. He will say, "No, I am not the field. I am the enjoyer of the field. I am the knower of the field." And that is what Kshetra and Kshetragya is all about. Kshetra is the body, the field that is given to me, using which I can enjoy in the material world. Like the farmer, he enjoys his land. He works hard, he sows nice seeds, and then the crop grows by the grace of sunshine and the rain and water, and the nutrients in the soil, and then he enjoys those grains. Similarly, we have this body, and we use this body for our own enjoyment. So this body is the Kshetra, and Kshetragya is one who knows this body. And of course, a higher level of Kshetragya is one who's self-realized, who understands, I am not the Kshetra, I am not this body, I am in the body. I am not this body, but I have a body. And that person is actually a Kshetragya. So Krishna is further answering. So we have added some more points here. So why do we get this material body? If you notice, we say this material world is dukhale mashasham. Why we say? Because Krishna says that. And why is this a plain place of misery? Why it is so difficult? Why there is so much of suffering? If we see, birth, death, old age, disease does not have to do anything with soul. It has everything to do with the body. And that creates so much of distress, right? Our bodies cause distress for others. Others' body, whom we are attached to, we love, their bodies also create distress to us. So actually the body is the source of all distress. Why do I get this body? Why do I get this field? So the key reason behind that is desire. The key reason is desire. Because I desire, I have this lust for material enjoyment. And when I have that, Mother Nature, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, gives us this body. Okay, you want to enjoy this material? Take this body. And for whom is this Kshetra given? This body is given? Those who are conditioned. They have nothing to do with God. They are not interested in connecting with God. They are not interested in serving God. They want to enjoy in this material world. So they are given this device. They are given this device. So as we'll see in further chapters of Bhagavad Gita, Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Krishna explains this body is like a yantra or a machine. Yantra Rudhani Maya. This machine made up of Maya is ridden, or it it is activated by the soul, and it uses it like a machine. Like we have a car, we turn the key, we ignition, we ignite the engine, and then we put the gear and we drive. We use the car. Similarly, we're using this body. And Kshetragya, we are already aware. One knows this body and it does not identify with the body. So that person is the real knower.
And here is a life lesson that we are different from the things we use, and the body is one such thing. So like how we use so many things, we are using our laptop or computer or mobiles to attend this class. So these are all things that we are using. So similarly, we are not the body. Body is one of the thing which we use. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyayor jnanam yattaj jnanam matam mama. O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So now Krishna is expressing his opinion first. So he's telling what he feels, and that is what he's saying. So he is a very, very, out of humility, he is talking like that this is my opinion. And he says, what is the point he is making? So in the previous verse, he said that body and soul, or Kshetra and Kshetragya, Now here he is talking about the super soul. So he is telling, I am also knower in all the bodies. So as we have already discussed, especially much detail in chapter number 5, where we were talking about the presence of Paramatma, the person who knows the difference between Atma and Paramatma. So here again Krishna is bringing that Kshetra is the body, Kshetragya is the knower of the body, and then there is another chief Kshetragya who is Krishna himself, residing in each body as Paramatma. And he says there that a person who knows this soul, super soul, and the body, a person who knows this, that person is in knowledge. That is actually knowledge. So Krishna is defining here what is knowledge.
So I can safely say that all of you who have been listening to Bhagavad Gita consistently in a very sincere way, all of you are knowledgeable people, by the grace of the Lord. You are spiritually literate. Of course, our literacy is continuing, but we have gained some spiritual literacy.
So here Krishna specifies, Krishna is also Kshetragya, the chief Kshetragya, because we know our body, and that to a certain extent. We don't know even our body completely. My Kshetra. This is my Kshetra, but I don't know it completely. But Krishna as a super soul, not only he knows individual body, he knows every body and he knows it perfectly. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very interesting example there, that a citizen in a country or a farmer, so a farmer may have one small land which he would tilt, which he would plow. Another farmer may have his own land, and the third farmer may have his own land. So like that, different farmers have different pieces of land. And let's say there is a king. So actually we know that ultimately all the land belongs to the king, and that is why they pay the taxes to the king. So king is a complete owner of all the land, and there are individual owners. So that is how we all have our Kshetra, and we are the Kshetragya, and Krishna as the super soul is the chief Kshetragya. And then Krishna is telling Jnanam is perfect knowledge. So to understand body and its knowers. So there are two knowers of the body, soul and super soul. So that is called knowledge.
To understand both the soul and the super soul as one yet distinct is knowledge. So of course we are one because Krishna is the supreme spiritual personality, infinite. We are also spiritual, Satchidanand, but we are insignificant. He is Vibhu, we are Anu. He is infinite and we are insignificant. So we are one and yet we are really distinct from each other.
Tat kshetram yaccha yadracha yad vikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena meshinu. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. So Krishna is going to give the details now.
So there are 6 topics that Krishna wants to explain about Kshetra and Kshetragya, because like an expert teacher, we ask one question and the teacher, because he has so much of knowledge, Krishna has infinite knowledge, so he is planning to further explain these points. And what are those? So these are the 6 aspects and these are the different words. If you look at the first line, composition of the body is actually indicated by the words yat cha from the words. So what is the composition of the body? Composition of the body is the 5 gross elements, the 3 subtle elements, the pranas, the senses, and all of that. So that is all the composition of the body. The next one is the qualities of the body, and it is indicated by the Sanskrit word yadrak. So what are the qualities? We live our life based on 2 principles, material life. I like, I dislike. I want, I don't want. I am attached to and I hate. This is what my whole existence actually is centered around. So these are some of the qualities of the body. Changes of that body undergoes yad vikari. We will see in one of the slides that how the body undergoes different changes. Origin of this body, what this body comes from? Well, the origin is the combination of matter given by the Supreme Lord, the raw ingredients, and the soul. So the soul has a desire, I want to enjoy in this way. And the nature provides an appropriate material body. So that is the origin of this body. Identification of the owner of the body. Well, identification Krishna talks about right in the second chapter. He explains that we are not this body, we are spirit, soul, and powers of the knowers of the body. Yet prabha vash. So Krishna will be explaining these in the subsequent verses.
So it is so very interesting that Arjun asks certain topics and Krishna on his own, he feels so enthusiastic. So those of us who are teachers would have experienced this, that if the students are curious, inquisitive, serious and sincere, the teacher wants to give more and more knowledge, wants to share whatever he or she has. So same is happening with Krishna here. He is sharing 6 details about Kshetra and Kshetragya. So Supreme Lord is clarifying all the doubts. One just need to patiently, attentively and sincerely study Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of bona fide devotees. So if we do that, then we understand things very clearly because Krishna is willing to do that. Rishibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir vividhai prithak brahma sutra padaishaiva hetumadbhir vinishchitai. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is specially present in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So now in the previous verse, we saw that Krishna said, what did he say? This is my opinion. So Krishna first, he gave his opinion. And now what is he doing in this verse? Very interesting to see that connect. So Krishna has expressed his opinion and now Krishna is giving references. Now Krishna is giving evidences to support his opinion. So that is a very, very important learning for us, that whenever we are presenting anything, especially from the scripture, like people ask so many varieties of question. So whatever opinion I present, I must back it up with the evidences. So Krishna is giving here the evidences. He is saying it is described by various sages. So sages is one. Second, he is saying in various Vedic writings. So second is the Vedas. And third, he is saying Vedanta Sutra. So 3 references.
So now this is very interesting. We understand Krishna is the greatest authority. Well, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the original manufacturer. So he has manufactured the material world. Who can know more than him? So Krishna is the greatest authority, but as Sugiti was explaining, that this is the general way, that when some knowledge is presented, there is of course always references are given. And this is especially required because Krishna is going to talk about a very, very controversial topic. As we have discussed right from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita about the duality or non-duality of soul and super soul, there is so much of confusion, so much of misinterpretation of Vedic knowledge that a large majority of people understand, actually I am God, I have not realized it. So this is a huge misconception where they consider the soul and super soul are not different. It is only a matter of realization. Or that soul can merge in God, soul can merge in super soul. Atma Paramatma mein leen ho jati hai. So this is a huge misconception. Krishna is going to talk about it. So and people may not have full faith in Krishna. So Krishna wants to give references. Okay, if you do not really have faith in me, at least you have faith in Vedas, because those are the verses you misinterpret. And I'm going to talk from Vedas itself. I'm going to explain from the Vedanta Sutra. And apart from the rishis, so rishis, there are Prabhupada talks about that. We have great personalities of sages like Vyasadeva, his father Parashar Muni, very, very, in fact, Vyasadeva is considered to be literary incarnation of the Lord, who produced so many compiled prominent scriptures, and Parashar Muni and Vasishtha. So they are the sages who have prepared the treatises. We have Vedas like Katha Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad, which specifically talk about soul, super soul, their differences, and the body. And then if you see the third line, Brahma Sutra Padais Chaiva. So these are the words of Brahma Sutra. Krishna uses the word Hetu Madbhed, which means that they are very, very logically presented. In Vedanta Sutra, the words present great amount of logic so that we can intellectually be satisfied and convinced. Vinishchitaha means very decisively, right? So logic is given in a very decisive way, and therefore Krishna is talking about them. And we have some very important life lesson coming up. So Krishna cites the authorities, sages, Vedas, and Vedanta Sutra. So we can club this into sages and the scriptures, and therefore we have this very important life lesson.
Krishna, in the role of a guru, gives the evidence from sadhu or sages and shastra or scripture. That is the proper procedure. So, in case of any difficulty, in case we are facing any confusion, kindly refer Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So, Krishna is himself establishing that the equation between Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, they are on the same page always. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktameva cha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha इच्छा द्वेष सुखं दुःखं संगातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारम् उदाहृतम्. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So now here Krishna is talking about various things. One, he is talking about the composition of the body, which he has already told that he wants to talk about. Second, he is talking about the qualities. So qualities of the kshetra, where he mentions desire, hatred, happiness, distress. So these are the qualities. And then he also talks about the changes in the body. So let's see one at a time. So the 24 elements which constitutes the material body or the kshetra. Here are the list of those 24 elements. The first one is 5 great element, which we have discussed in chapter number 7. Bhumi, api, anal, vayu, kham. So 5 things: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So these we were calling as gross element. They are also referred to as 5 great elements. Then all of us, we possess 5 working senses. The senses through which we actually perform activities. So these are voice, legs, hands, anus and genitals. So these are the 5 working senses. So 5 plus 5, 10. Next 5 Krishna talks about is 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So these are those senses through which we get inputs. So we are in this material world and we perceive things through our eyes, ear, nose, tongue and skin. So these are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. And what do we acquire from these senses? So from eyes, the input comes in the form of form. For the ears, the input comes in the form of sound. For nose, it is smell. For tongue, it is taste. And for skin, it is touch. So total 20 elements. Then the next 3 elements, the next one is mind, which is also mentioned as the 11th sense. So we can see that we have already mentioned 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So those are total 10 senses and mind becomes the 11th sense. And then there is a description of intelligence and false ego. And finally, the 24th element is pradhan or unmanifested stage of 3 modes. So the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, in their unmanifested stage, they are referred as pradhan. So these are all, my dear devotees, are the 24 elements of material nature which constitutes our body or kshetra.
And these are the changes of the body which Krishna was talking about. So there are 6 changes, and we would have already experienced at least 3, if not 4 and 5. So first thing is the birth itself. Then we know it grows, the body grows, it stays for some time, it reproduces, and then begins to decay. And finally, the body cannot hold on its own and it meets its natural death. So these are the 6 changes of the body. Vikari, that's the word which Krishna uses.
So there is always a defect in each and every body. So we all have a body and we have one thing in common, that the body, what we are having, it grows to die. finally, ultimately, everybody dies. So there is no escape from the death of the body. Body has to eventually die. Hence, use your body wisely. So we have already discussed that body is one of the thing what we have. So use it wisely because ultimately it's going to die.
So coming to the next section, we are now getting into one of the questions that Arjuna asked about knowledge. So Krishna will reveal what knowledge is and how to gain it. And these are in the 4 verses.
5 verses.
5 verses.
And before we do that, here is a reflective exercise we want you all to do. So we are sharing it on your Zoom window. So what you have to do is there is a list of total 20 items. So there is a first list of 10 and then there is another a list of 10 items. So you have to choose those items only which you think was taught to you in your school. You can choose multiple items, but you have to choose just those items which were taught to you during your school days.
If you do not feel that nothing of this was taught, then but still you'll have to mark at least one to complete the poll.
So your time starts now. Here you go. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you all for your inputs, and we can see that 90% maximum number of you have marked that cleanliness is taught in the school in the first section. That is the one which has got highest markings. So now my question is, when we are talking about cleanliness, did they teach us how to clean our thoughts and mind and consciousness? Or does it refer only to external cleanliness?
So maybe it's about how do we define these qualities, and based on that, I'm sure those of you who are parents and who always wanted to protect your child from all unnecessary things, but then you realize the moment the child starts going to school, the child learns so many things which you always wanted to protect him or her from,
which you did not want him to learn.
Right. So, and of course, this is really surprising. I really do not know. Approaching a bona fide spiritual master were taught to 14% of you from the school.
Which school did you go?
Which school was it?
Those of you who have marked approaching the spiritual master, which school did you go? Because I heard this word bona fide only after coming to ISKCON. Before that, I had no idea, no clue. But 14% of you have marked that you were taught to approach a bona fide spiritual master. So amazing that was taught at that.
And some even learned renunciation of objects of sense gratification. Wow. I mean, this is Really.
Those are good schools. Okay, and in the second section, we see even-mindedness gets the maximum voting, and the next is absence of false ego. So now talking about false ego.
This is not even understood actually.
Yeah. What is false ego?
In fact, again, as Sugiti was saying, that this is one word that we come to know when we come in touch with Bhagavad Gita. Without learning Bhagavad Gita, we do not know, we know ego. And many people
Anyone
say,
there would like to type? Would you like to define what is false ego? Because 33%, especially those of you who have marked absence of false ego. So what is the understanding of ego? False ego. What is the understanding of false ego? What is false ego? So that is my question. Waiting for your responses. What is false ego? Are we on mute? Okay, so Smita has written selflessness. Any other response? Everything is happening because of me.
that is ego.
Veena says when you try to show off something which you do not have. Actually, Anjali got it right. Identification with the body and thinking we are the body. So that is actually false ego. Now, in which school were we taught that we are not the body? That we are spirit, soul, and not the body. So now these are the things. You may be wondering why we have given this long list for you all to dwell over and think about what was taught during the school. And many of you have marked things like, let's say, humility or tolerance or simplicity. Let's see, read the next set of verses, and then we will come back to these qualities and we will discuss what does it mean.
Amanitvam adadhitvam ahimsa shantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मा विनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गा पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु.
These are the verses from 8 to 12, and Krishna says here. So listen attentively. Krishna is talking about those 20 qualities which you have marked just now. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness and amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge. And besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So Krishna is actually telling that all these 20 qualities are knowledge and everything else is ignorance. And the acharyas explain this. If you can see, a particular point is italicized and underlined. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. So now this is the center. So all these 19 qualities are actually to assist one to develop this constant and unalloyed devotion to Krishna. So that is the perfect knowledge. And to acquire that knowledge, all these things are actually assisting. So if you remember in chapter number 12, verses 13 to 20, they were also talking about these similar qualities which a person is expected to have and which makes ultimately one dear to Krishna. So the end result is becoming dear to Krishna. So here also we see that end result is actually attaining constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Now, this particular quality is acquired by another quality which is mentioned there, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. So, if I want to become devotee of Krishna, I must approach a bona fide spiritual master. And how do I approach a bona fide spiritual master? For that, the most important ingredient is humility. So, these are the three very important qualities in the list of these 20 qualities: constant devotion, constant and unalloyed devotion to me by approaching a bona fide spiritual master,
In all humility. So let's look at the qualities as explained by Srila Prabhupada, because we may have some understanding, and Srila Prabhupada presents here the understanding as per the scriptures, Guru Sadhu Shastra. And let's look at the first one. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So if we see that this is so central to our modern civilization, the way we are educated, the way we are taught even by our parents and in our families, that one should be very honorable, one should do things by which others can honor us, should not do any dishonorable thing. So we begin to do that. We begin to act in a way expecting that others will honor us with so much of pride in our heart. Right? We are proud to be Indians. We are proud to be, identifying with some particular family or caste or a community. Right? We take so much of pride in that.
and our own talents.
And our own talents, yes. And if somebody does not offer us that honor, then we become very disturbed. And humility is just the opposite, that we have absolutely no anxiety. Others honor us, great. Others don't honor us, even greater. Right? So we have absolutely, a really humble person has no anxiety regarding whether others honor him or they don't honor him. He has no such expectations.
The second quality, Prabhupada explains non-violence as means not to put others into distress. Now, it is an amazing definition which Srila Prabhupada gives us, because generally non-violence or ahimsa we treat as not causing physical harm to others. But Prabhupada is not limiting it only to physical harm. It encapsulates all, like mental harm, emotional distress. So any or every type of distress. And he is not limiting only to the human beings. So non-violence is for human and for all the living entities. So by our action, we should not be causing anxiety to other, and that is real non-violence. And Prabhupada there he clarifies that one should try his best to distribute the real knowledge of Krishna consciousness to people, so that they become enlightened and hence they are saved from anxiety. So everyone there is searching for happiness and everyone there is anxious. Till the time the sacred book Bhagavad Gita reaches their hand, they are very, very anxious. Till the time they start reading and following Bhagavad Gita, they are very anxious. And as many of you have written to us that how after joining Gita Made Easy course, your anxiety levels have reduced. So what has happened is because you have got something very spiritual. So this Prabhupada defines as non-violence.
Next is tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. So this is a general norm now. People even walking on the road, driving or meeting anyone, people don't really care much about how you feel. So one should actually become very tolerant. And this is especially true when we are trying to become devotees. So anyone and everyone can pass comments on us, right? Especially if we try to inspire others about Krishna consciousness. There are people who are very aggressive and they speak very harshly. I remember when we were trying to distribute books, Bhagavad Gita, sir, would you like to have? I don't have time. Why are you disturbing? Why are you putting the stall here? Get away from there. I remember one devotee from the temple, he had gone for distributing Bhagavad Gita on one of the railway stations in Chennai. And there was one policeman who came and he told, you go away. And then a devotee went away and then came back after some time. And this policeman got so wild. He threw all the books and he literally beat this devotee so much. So tolerance means, when we are trying to do Krishna's work, there'll be others who will oppose us, who will insult us, who will dishonor us, and we need to tolerate that and continue.
Then Prabhupada writes about simplicity means that without diplomacy. So a person or a devotee of the Lord is non-duplicit. Whatever we think, the thoughts, the words, and the action, everything is on the same line.
And then regulative principles would be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. So if one accepts a spiritual master, that means I surrender, I follow. Even if I do not like so much, if it is little inconvenient for me, still I follow the instructions of the spiritual master without reservation. And if I do that, then I can very easily follow the regulative principles.
So, talking about approaching a bona fide spiritual master, Prabhupada is linking it to following the regulative principles. So, those of us who sincerely want to have a spiritual master, as we have been telling you all about our mentorship program, so we are actually launching it from tomorrow, the very, very auspicious day of Janmashtami. Talking about which, what you have to do is just after the session, we would be sharing you a link on your WhatsApp groups. So, you need to click at that link, fill a form. So there is a detailed form which talks a lot about you, information about you. So think carefully, fill that form, submit that form, and the moment you submit, it'll take you to a page where you can actually book an appointment with us. So we will have a one-on-one call with you, a Zoom call. You can choose your favorable slot and we would connect and we would try to guide you. So this is an extension of our services, wherein this is only for those of you who are very sincere and who really want to progress in spiritual life and go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime itself. So if you want to achieve Krishna's lotus feet, the process is acquiring a spiritual master. So this whole mentorship program is designed in a manner to prepare you for initiation or diksha. And this program is absolutely free. So we do not charge anything for this program. Your sincerity and dedication is the only thing what we are looking for. Okay, so getting back here, Prabhupada talks about the cleanliness, and as 90% of us have opted that we were taught cleanliness in our school, now this is cleanliness, internal cleanliness and external cleanliness. More than the external cleanliness is how much clean we are here, what is going on within me. What is that internal noise which is always there with me? What is me talking to me?
And many times cleanliness is also confused word, because if you look at the Western countries, the city may seem to be very, very clean, but in Vedic system, actually cleanliness refers to purity, external purity and internal purity. So internal purity comes by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by remembering the Supreme Lord. That's how we become internally clean and pure. Our pure means that our mind has spiritual thoughts and not thoughts of material enjoyment. External purification means that we take bath in a way and we conduct ourselves in a way that we are externally also pure and not contaminated. Like, for example, one small thing. In the Vaishnava culture, if one goes to the washroom, one goes and passes stool, then one is expected to take bath, right? Or if one clips the nails or cuts the hair, one is expected to take bath. So that is required for external cleanliness and purification. So many times the Vedic concept of purity is not really understood in the modern times.
The next is steadiness. So steadiness is defined, that means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. So how steady I am, basically there is only one goal of human life, and that is perfecting our spiritual life. So whatever it takes for that, am I determined and do I want to make progress? That defines my steadiness.
Next is self-control. Self-control means what? If we look at an object and we think, I want to enjoy this, so nice, I want it. Is it self-control? So usually, conventionally, a normal person will take it. And if we see some object and says, no, this will give me so much of trouble, so I don't like it. So that is not really self-control. It is the opposite of that. A devotee has a different outlook. When he looks at an object, what is the question that comes to his mind? To a devotee, the question comes, can I use it in Krishna's service? How can I serve Krishna with this object? I mean, in a right way. So then if he can make that connection, then he accepts that object and he uses it in Krishna's service. And otherwise he avoids it. So if a devotee is very mature, he can use most of the things that the devotee is in the beginning stages. Things, it may be difficult to use everything in Krishna's service. So self-control means accept those things favorable for spiritual life and reject those that are unfavorable. Right? It could be objects, it could be people, it could be an app in your mobile phone, it could be a particular relative. Yeah. So if that person, you feel inspired in your spiritual life, please connect. If you feel, every time I talk to him, I do not know why I am studying Bhagavad Gita, then better, very unfavorable for you. So self-control means what to accept and what to reject.
Then there is a definition of false ego. So false ego means accepting this body as oneself, which most of us, all of the time or most of the time, we keep doing that. So we connect with this external world thinking that I am this body. The moment I think I am this body, I am having a false ego.
And then Krishna talks about the evil of birth, death, old age and disease. So, well, it is an evil. Sometimes people think, no, it is unnecessarily sad. Why do we have to talk about death? We have life, live and enjoy. No. And then what will happen at death? If we cannot live like an ostrich. When it is in danger, it puts his head in the sand and avoids the danger. But no, we must understand this pessimistic view of the material life. This is all reality. So if we understand and remind ourselves of this reality once in a while, then we'll always have this push to further advance in spiritual life. So it is very, very good, very amazing. And Krishna says this is knowledge.
And then there are few more things. So like there, it is a mention that attachment to family members. So husband, wife, children.
Detachment.
Yeah, so one should be detached from them. So Prabhupada is explaining that family members are natural objects of affection. So how do I show my affection towards my family member? By making them favorable to spiritual life, by creating an environment so that they feel inspired and enthusiastic towards spiritual life. And that is how I make my family, that is how if they become devotee, then there is no point in disconnecting or detaching from themselves. The next is even-mindedness. So one can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. This Krishna mentions in the second chapter also, where he talks about Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshan sukh-dukkha. So the happiness and distress, it keeps coming and going. Yeah, second chapter, 14th verse. So same thing he is pointing out here, that one cannot restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So what he can restrict is how he is reacting to that.
Actually, that verse is so amazing. One should not get disturbed. If one gets $1 million, a devotee is not disturbed because he understands Krishna's money, Baba. You cannot enjoy it. So there is no disturbance, right? Or if there is some loss, share market, I bought it 1,000 rupees, now it is 5 rupees. Big loss. You better don't put there. It's a wrong place to park your money. So whatever happiness or distress one gets, one is even-minded. So that's one quality Krishna is talking about here.
Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service, which we have successfully completed in Bhakti Yoga Made Easy. So those are the 9 processes Prabhupada is referring here, and that is how we can actually absorb ourselves in undeviated, unalloyed devotional service.
Next is to live in a solitary place means that we go to Himalayas and we do not have anybody near us. That is that is an impossible task for us. So Prabhupada explains that it means to give up unwanted association. So whoever discourages us in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness, those who are against it, we take a scissor and we chop those relationships, in the sense that we are respectfully oriented towards them, but we do not intimately connect with them on a one-to-one personal basis.
So the service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal and nityam. So when we do all these things, then we attain that platform where we can continuously, eternally serve the Supreme Lord. We are sorry, there are this frequent power cut today, so suddenly our screen is going blank. But then
anyway,
we are
the screen is
here,
visible.
So there are few very significant life lessons from this section about knowledge. The first one is, if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. And if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop with them. So the whole point is that the 20 items, the most important is constant and unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord. And that should be the focus. And if I'm focused there, then things like humility or pridelessness or tolerance or detachment naturally follows.
The transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. So, of course, all of us, I hope, have accepted His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, with our heart and soul. So, He is our preeminent Siksha Guru. And we also need to go ahead, move on, and accept a bona fide Diksha Guru. And that's where the mentorship program comes in. We have a very nice, beautiful flyer which we'll be sharing with you today, and you can see the different aspects of our life which will be impacted, which we hope to impact positively, spiritually with this program.
The real method of acquiring knowledge is cultivation of saintly character headed by humility. So humility is very, very important. So the 3 topics which we said out of 20 is very important. One is humility. And with this, we have come to an end of today's session. Before we sign off, there is a very important announcement about tomorrow's Janmashtami festival. So tomorrow we have this Mahotsav, this wonderful festival of Janmashtami. And unfortunately, this year also we did not get the permission to invite you all personally. Krishna willing, next Janmashtami we can celebrate in person. But this time, the best thing is Krishna is coming to your house tomorrow morning 4:30 a.m. at Mangal Aarti time. Yes, you got it right. We are going live from ISKCON Chennai for the Mangal Aarti. So Mangal Aarti is the first darshan of the deities when the deities are still in their night dress. So the deities won't be dressed very opulently with all the garlands and jewelries, but in a very simple dress tomorrow morning for Mangal Aarti program. So 4:30 a.m. happens the Mangal Aarti, followed by japa. So like how we do every Ekadashi, 16 rounds of japa together. So we invite you all to continue with us from 5:15 to 7:15 a.m. in the morning, so that we make our Ekadashi, we make our Janmashtami completely auspicious.
And also in the evening, we will have a wonderful program. So on Sri Krishna Janmashtami, we do a grand abhishek, offer a grand abhishekam to our deities. So that abhishekam will start at 10:30 in the night, and it will continue. It will be followed by bhoga offering and Maha Arati. So all that will also be brought to you live from our temple at Chennai.
So here is the reading assignment for the next week. You are expected to complete verses number 13 to 26 for the next session. So with this, we have come to an end of today's program. And
so you will also be very happy to know that this we are celebrating, as ISKCON, we are celebrating the 125th appearance anniversary of Srila Prabhupada. So on Monday, tomorrow is Sri Krishna Janmashtami festival, and following next day is Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. So Nandotsav, Nand Baba gives a feast and a huge program celebration is the day after Janmashtami. On that day, Srila Prabhupada appeared 125 years ago. So that is also a very, very significant event. And that's the day when we should actually offer heartfelt prayers to Srila Prabhupada, offer flowers, and chant his pranam mantra with a very sincere prayer that Srila Prabhupada, please bless us with your grace so that we can dedicate this one life in your service.
so Janmashtami, it's a day of fasting. So the fasting would begin from tomorrow early morning itself. When you wake up, you would be fasting, and it continues till midnight, 12 o'clock. So there are different levels of fasting. Devotees, ideally, if they can, then they should abstain from eating anything and everything, including water. If that is difficult, then the second level is with water and with water. The third level could be with fruits. And the fourth level could be Ekadashi fasting, like how we observe the Ekadashi, where we eat non-grains item. So these are various levels of fasting, which is observed till 12 o'clock midnight. But because day after tomorrow is Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, so what we do is, because Prabhupada is we have given the position of a guru to Srila Prabhupada. So what we do is, we break our fast tomorrow night by some anukalpa or non-grain prasad, and then on Tuesday morning again we take 1 grain of rice to break the fast, and otherwise we fast till 12 o'clock afternoon. And then 12 afternoon, offer some flowers and arati to
Arati.
Srila Prabhupada, offer some bhoga to Srila Prabhupada, and then you can accept the prasadam. Also, this particular year on Wednesday, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi ji, has agreed to inaugurate a golden coin commemorating, silver coin commemorating Srila Prabhupada.
125th anniversary.
Yeah, so we would be sharing those details also, the Zoom link of that program, and we invite you all to join it on Wednesday evening for that. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are available for